Welcome everyone to the second day of our Distortion Festival. As I mentioned earlier, this is our fourth edition. And in this edition, we wanted to explore the relationship between design, the use of digital technologies, and our environment. And in this talk specifically, we will present the result of a 2 weeks workshop done in March 2021 called I Fell in Love with the Lake with our first year students, Sabrina Calvo and Marie Dommenget. And in this workshop, we wanted to investigate the impact of digital technologies on the evolution of Geneva's biosphere and to use 3D imageries, tools, and animation techniques to imagine the future of digital skies, of the water of the Lac Léman or Lake Geneva. And we also wanted to imagine new type of species, living ecosystems, unknown objects. And in a nutshell, this was a really dreamy workshop, if I may say. And we are also presenting the actual work, not online, but on site at Genève. So if you are around in Geneva, our exhibition is open until 5 today. I'm Alexia Mathieu, head of Master's Media Design Program, and I'm really happy to welcome Sabrina Calvo, writer, game designer, but also fashion designer today. Hi, Sabrina.
Hi.
Thank you for being here today. And I will also introduce to our first year students, Lison Christ, Paul Belloncer, Manon Venecum.
Hi.
Voilà, je crois que c'est tout le monde. Super. I also would like to say thank you to Marie. She's a professor in this workshop. She couldn't be here today. So hi, Marie. I know she's moving to Sweden. And I also would like to thank Jakob for his great insights. He just actually burst in my office to say hello. So hi, Michael. And also Musée du Léman, who really gave us a lot of insight and support to realize this workshop. So I guess let's just jump in the water. And I have my first question is a bit more poetic, I guess. How did you all fall in love with the lake? Maybe we can start with Sabrina and maybe someone else can jump in after Sabrina.
Hi there. How did I fall in love with the lake? I don't remember quite clearly, but I think I fell in love with an image of the lake, not the lake itself, because I mean, although I know the lake very well, I've been there a lot, and I think what really strikes me in the lake was how it could be there, you know, like as a presence. And I usually dreams of lakes. I mean, I spent a whole year of my life chasing blue lakes in Iceland because of dreams I had of these lakes. And before I went to Iceland, I remember clearly going to Geneva to try to know if Lac Léman was the lake. And I guess somehow all lakes are the same to me in my heart. Kind of like maybe I fell in love with the idea of the lake with the L, you know. So it's like I'm in love with all lakes, I think. Lac Léman itself, it's very different type of object for me. It's because I filled it with a lot of imagery based on romanticism and based on historical literature. And so for me, it's like this kind of like blurred intimacy with the image of the lake. But what is super surprising to me is like how much this lake is taking a place in my life. I mean, it's just like it kept going at me all the time. It's just like every time I'm kind of like forgetting about the lake, it's coming back. Either someone asked me to write about it, or either someone. So maybe I didn't fall in love with the lake alone. Maybe the lake fell in love with me somehow, you know. And so it's a relationship. It's a very healthy, beautiful, strange creation, and maybe that's what love is after all, you know, a co-creation.
And who else would like to answer? Maybe Lison, would you like to say a few things? Maybe you can share, because what's interesting about the Lac Léman is that there's so many great stories, right, associated to it, and you all really look into that while you were, doing your research for the workshop. We can think of Marie Shelley or La Nouvelle Héloïse, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. So it's also a place when the French and the Swiss meet. So maybe Lison, you can share with us what are the insights that you found the most interesting when you were doing research on the lake, and what really inspired your project?
I think, first of all, for me, the lake is special because I'm a resident of Lake Geneva for 20 years. So for me, he's more a companion than a lover. But I think what was very interesting to discover again with this lake was the fascination of residents and people from outside coming here. And especially Marie Shelley, for example, it's tourists. And when they come, they come to see the mountains and the lake. And for me, it was super interesting to discover this kind of fascination for something. For me, the lake was always there. So during 20 years, I have the lake in front of me. So yeah, maybe the ideas of fascination from people from outside.
And you, Manon and Paul, what was the thing that interested you the most, or the insight that really helped you build your project? Maybe Manon and Paul after.
Yeah, for me, it was quite a discovery. Like I'm new in Geneva, and I discovered the lake as soon as I came for my Erasmus. And at the beginning, I came from the south of France, so I loved sea and more like Mediterranean Sea and things like that. And when I discovered the lake, I discovered something very new to me. Like it was something that had no reason. And despite of that, it was still something for me very strong, very powerful. And thanks to the musée in Lyon for the Lac Léman, the story we heard at this place were just amazing, like the tsunami story, for example, that happened 2,000 years ago. I don't remember quite well, but yeah, there is something about the lake that I didn't realize at the beginning, and then I just feel the power of this entity of the nature, and the thing that we are little beings near to it. And that was something that really inspired me for my creation for this workshop.
And what about you, Paul? I will kind of go to your work, to your project as well.
Yeah. What I first liked about the lake, and not specifically the Lake Léman, but it kind of drove me to the Léman, is the work of Lamartine, which did a bit of a famous poem about the lake, and it's more about a lover, but it's interesting also his relation with the lake. And also I loved also the stories of Jacques Picard, which is taught and told in the museum of the lake, and the visit of like the submarine for tourists that they used to dive with on the bottom of the lake. It was really interesting. And also there's it's kind of a cosmos of inspiration, different things, but also BioShock, which I loved. And I love to kind of, you don't know really what's at the bottom, and even if you know that it's not interesting, like you can imagine some things. And I think it was interesting for me and Alexandra, which
somewhere
we were too.
Yeah, exactly. Some of you were in groups. So I have maybe two more general questions, and then after that we can dive into each project. So the first question I wanted to ask you, maybe, you know, like all of you, something that you talked about, actually, it's also a notion that Michael Jakob, because he's in the office right now, he's like listening behind me. Something that he said to us that was so interesting is that actually, you know, nature as an artificial construct, right? And how the lake basically was invented in the 19th century. Before, it was just a place considered for transport. It was not this sublime place, you know, now that we want to observe and that we actually can fall in love with. So I was just curious, could you share more on this? Maybe Sabrina, and maybe the students can also add some insights on this.
So the question is about the sublime, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like how did you maybe explore this notion, not only conceptually, but also visually in the workshop?
Well, I guess that the sublime came as a byproduct of the process that we choose to practice in order to extract meaning from our relationship to the lake. What I mean by that is that our main tool was the reverie, which is kind of like the dreamscapes that enters and flow through us throughout the day if we allow them to move through us. And from this reverie comes a feeling of peace and a feeling of rest and opening our consciousness to what is beyond our perception. And usually when we are at that threshold, when we are in that state of mind, we can allow something bigger than us to come from within and meeting what is without. And the sublime is usually born out of this place of opening and consciousness of what is bigger than us. And the sublime is the effect this realization has on our souls. And the moment that we understood that we cannot understand, the moment where we understand that maybe there is nothing to understand, or maybe there is too much to understand. And so what is hidden becomes a source of pure, infinite émerveillement. And the aesthetical gesture through creation is exactly there. It's like, how do we, as human beings, make our meaning, can we create meanings throughout our practice of aesthetical gestures to enact and incarnate these effects and this sensitivity onto objects like work of art, or I don't know, even feelings, you know. Aesthetical gestures are not only about work of art or things like that. There can be very small things shared between people who know how difficult it is to communicate, and through very tiny little silent things. So I guess for me, that was it. That was like, how do we dream of the lake, and how do we collectively bring forth this image of the lake that can bring us to share a bigger fate together and relate to that with intermediate objects, film, sculptures, like 3D, using 3D for that, and like manifesting the texture of this dream. Right.
I think now it's a perfect time to show those dreams and maybe have the students explain to us the dreams they had with the lake. Maybe Paul, would you like to start? And I can show the images of your project while you talk.
Yes. So Alexandre and I, we thought of cruising on the lake with the boats that we usually see in Geneva that are called the mouettes, which are one of the transport that are available to travel in Geneva. And these are little boats. We basically wanted to have a cruise on the lake, but it wasn't possible. So we took those little boats and we filmed a little movie, and we wanted to just on this movie we wanted to tell a story about a cruise that's as further as it's going, you see you begin to see like a new dimension that is revealing within the lake, new creature that appears, which we made in 3D and incorporated, which is a mix of animation and still image. And we made basically this movie on kind of in the kind of format narration of a journey from point A to point B, where we took the boat, we travel to the other side of the lake, and we see in the middle we see those creatures, strange creatures that are made of what we are not used to see moving in the lake, or living creature like plastic bags or such, maybe dirty stuff. That's it's not. It's like a strange technosphere living creature. So it was fun to imagine this poetic and strange also journey.
Yeah, you almost constructed a bestiary, right? All those creatures living in the deep water of the lake. And actually, if I can say to the audience, I put on the chat the link to the website, so you can go and also know more about all the different projects. So this here, what we see is kind of like how would you call that creature?
Plastic bag medusa. I don't know. That's no name, no Latin naming yet.
They are not named yet. Okay.
Plasticus medusus.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So here what we see is a project of Chloé Michel, sorry. And then this is a project from Beatrice Gorelli, and I'm going to, that's the one I was looking for. The project of Lison. Lison, could you tell us more about it?
So I have made this project with Maëlys Dautefeuille, and Maëlys and I imagined ourselves as two scientists, and we wanted to discover the depths of the lake, Geneva Lake, and we imagined this expedition from every angle. So we try to imagine, for example, how we built our submarines, and like that we created our characters too. We were two scientists, but it was a play, so we created our two word characters, but a little bit zany, I think. And we try to discover the new dimension of the lake and its depths. And we try to give back our impression, especially in front of very phantasmagorical settings we have seen under the lake. So our idea was to bring a little bit of lightness and humor, a little bit like Wes Anderson. I really like him, and but we wanted also to take you in a subtle way to highlight some deeper points, but first of all, we wanted to approach this strictly male domain, that is science. So, for example, we created our new submarines. It was to laugh a little bit about this boys club named Picard family from Father and Son. So, and another problematic we wanted to approach was the question of great discoveries. So we often have the impression that today we have already everything seen, everything discovered. We are becoming a little bit lazy about our planet, so blasé. And we are looking for to go always further and further with plane, and so fly, and to discover new experiences. But for us, it was also to say it's often the great experience happens not so far from where we are. So yeah, it was kind of approach we wanted to add to our small stories and lyrical story we created with Maëlys about the real death of Geneva Lake.
Mhm.
So
Thank you, Lison. And Manon, and after that, we will move on to another set of questions. Can you tell us about your project, L'Envers, c'est ça? It was the name, right?
Yeah, totally. It's called L'Envers. And what interests me in this workshop was quite like Michael Jakob told us a lot of things about the lake. So as we said at the beginning, before the 19th centuries, if I don't miss,
He's here in the office, so don't say something wrong.
Oops. I will try. So it was something that was not really used. It was something like not how can we say that? It was wild. Like it was something that people feared, and it was not as we can have like Sabrina said, like with the sublime, and we didn't have this love of watching the lake. It was more something about this is nature and this is it, and this is what interests me a lot in this story as I talk about the tsunami. And so for my project, I wanted to talk about this thing that is control, the control that humans take over nature, for this example of the lake. So it began something useful for the human. Before it was something that was not useful for it. It was just like, it's a lake. And so there is a lot of things that came in mind. So with this notion of control, there is several notions like the fear, so the control, and we can talk about it in other conceptual ideas, like the control of people, the control of nature, but not just the lake, on animals and everything like that. And so I wanted to talk about this artificiality that human brings to the things they want to control. And so it's a video that at the beginning, you just can see the lake with a realistic, this is this image, this realistic point of view. And when you see behind, you can see that it's no longer just a lake, but it becomes like a jewel, like something precious that the human managed to take and shape as its own desires. And what I wanted to say for my real conviction is that, like, with the ecological crisis that we have, these little jewels has to be considered if we don't want them to splash and just retake what they can be, in fact.
Thank you, Manon. So now that you know, we kind of presented all those different scenarios, and I have a question maybe more for Sabrina, and then maybe the Lison or Manon, feel free to jump in, or Paul as well. But you know, what's interesting here, you presented, I guess, nuanced, complex in a way, you know, scenarios with a lot of different dimensions, which are really different from the type of future scenarios we are used to see today. You know, and sometimes I remember Sabrina saying during the workshop that often those scenarios are really influenced by the capitalist system we live in. And I was wondering, maybe Sabrina, if you could tell us, in your opinion, why do we need today more than ever those type of scenario?
Well, it's like, you know, it's like when people say that science is neutral. Science is not neutral. Science comes from somewhere, from someone, from a desire to go in a certain direction. So I don't believe that the future that are being taught are being like shown as the desirable future for us are devoid of political agenda. And so one of the things that I've been trying to do with students and with artists and anybody who wants to jump in, basically, is to try to create new desirable future based on what we are experiencing in reality right now, and not what we should be experiencing in reality right now. And it's like we're locked into this really strong construct, cultural and dreamlike construct, and everything seems to go in one direction, and everything and all the things that we putting out as a work of art is filling this gap of the craving of wanting to know what will happen. And that's why sci-fi has been so important in the last 50 years. It's because it provided a sense of direction, at least for the Western world. But we're not, we should be aware of the fact that literature influence reality. Influence people making reality, and people influence people influencing reality. And a lot of the things that we're experiencing today is also a consequence of the way we've been handling the future images, and how we shared them, and how we made them seems like very real and incredible, And so we need to unfold that. We need to go back to the people. We need to go back to who are making things today, entrenched in very real social issues like feminism or anti-capitalism or anti-fascism, and start from there and allow the futures to be built from this new perspective. So, right now, everything we're doing is political, but not political in the sense of political activism, political in the sense of responsibility that we as designers have toward the future generations and the directions that we are showing, This direction needs to be multiple, and this direction needs to be very open, and this direction needs to be never to be like some kind of strong assertion about the certainty of what the future is going to be. We have no idea what the future is going to be. What we know for sure is what the present is. And we need to make sure that design informs our understanding of the present moment and not of the future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sabrina. Do you want maybe Lison, Manon, or Paul, do you want to add something? What do you think is your role as designers, when facing the ecological crisis, the context that we are in? How do you want to take on your role as designer in this really complicated context?
I would like to say that I can't be I can't agree more with what Sabrina says. And when she talks about all that things, that political capitalism and all that stuff, there is something that we have the chance to study there. It's the bias in new technology. Right now, the technology are made in a certain way, and this has been made by certain people, and it doesn't represent the world in itself, because it's not very inclusive. It's generally men that are building those tools that we are using today, and the tools we are going to use tomorrow. So it's something really important to think about that, to think about the new technology that we are going to have. For example, the main one we can focus on is robotics. We really have to have a larger point of view on it, on this story, on everything that was built and why they have been built like that. And our work as designer of today is to redesign what has been designed before, and trying to avoid at the maximum to remake the errors of the past, and just we have to be open. This is for me, it's our main mission to realize.
And not too much ego.
not too much ego, is that what you said?
Yeah.
No, for me it was also you said something about capitalism, and we are part of this kind of of century. For me, it was more as designer to give many answers, not only one, but maybe poetic answers, not real answers, but to have like a palette of answers. And it's maybe our job just to, with researches, to offer to people something a little bit more, maybe a little bit less dramatic about what we are going to, where we are going to go with our planet. So yeah, I think we have to be a little bit researcher and to try to switch a little bit more reality and to give it back to the person, to people who are following us. That's all.
And you, Paul, do you wanna add something perhaps?
No, that's okay.
Okay, good. Then I'll go to my questions. You know, the process of the workshop, like you had to, you know, do some field research. You had to, you know, you went to visit the Musée du Léman. You also had, you know, like a lecture from Jakob and also a lecture from Sabrina Calvo and Marie Dommenget. And you also had to actually bring together writing and creating 3D visuals. So maybe Sabrina, could you share with us the importance of writing in this workshop? How did you approach it, and maybe you could share with us a bit more about the process?
Well, I guess writing is a very powerful tool to express invisible things, and it's a difficulty today where so much emphasis is put on visuals to allow us to return to this point of silence where we can actually manifest thoughts into writing. And because writing is so subtle and because it allows so much nuance, by practicing writing before we get into too much visual, or before we get into too much cluttering of what something should be or not, writing allows us to explore a whole range of emotions and a whole range of memories and a whole range of desires and optimism, maybe. And so what we usually do when we're writing is that trying to take what is within and trying to put it out there, like as a scarification, because writing is really like this imprinting of thoughts into reality, and I'm not just talking about writing on a computer. I mean, like writing by hand is super important to me, and I encourage students to really practice writing by hands as much as they can. And so putting what is without is a process that allows us, like it's a breathing basically, because what is out is no longer with us. We can look at it, we can explore it differently. And when these things are so subtle and nuanced, we can get around new things that we didn't know were there, and visual only cannot access this thing, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I mean, this process is one of the most important process to face the reality of what we're doing and why we're doing it, and finding what makes it so special on a very deep, I wouldn't say spiritual level, because that would be a too strong a word, but I would say on a more intimate level, so that we can reach that point of critical metaphysics within us, and so that we can be reassured that we're on the right path somehow. So it's like a guidance, basically. It's like guiding ourselves gently with ourselves somehow. Yes.
And as a follow-up to Sabrina's answer, maybe Lison or Paul, could you share with us how did that impact your process? Do you think you will use writing again, or what did you learn with this workshop?
Especially after this workshop, I think I will continue to write, because I was really impressed about the power of writing. So it has, so for example, ideas become a little bit clearer. So you can put so many things in writing, and it's fast. So it's not like to create visual as we have done at the end, but for writing, we can try small ideas and to realize if we can go further with this kind of ideas or not, or we can just throw away the paper where we are writing, and that's all.
Mhm.
No more media, and it's not something you have on your computer where you have put so many hours to try something. So yeah, for me it was very powerful.
And what about you, Paul? Could you share a bit with us about how writing impacted your process? Is this something you're going to use again, or?
It's something I was already using before. It wasn't really new, because I mostly I write stuff when I want to think about something, a project. I don't even draw because I think it's not natural for me. I prefer to scratch text and write stuff. So I guess it's how I work basically. So yes, I don't know what else to say. I had something in mind and I forgot now.
Okay, that's fine. Don't worry. Maybe if it comes
This
back.
is why I write also
Okay.
because I forgot a lot.
Maybe we should have done a chat.
But personal question to Sabrina, when did you begin to write? So did you have a kind of light when you begin to do that, or it was coming gently?
You mean when I started writing?
Yeah.
Oh, I started writing. I mean, as long as I've written, as long as I remember being conscious, basically. I mean, I remember clearly how much writing was important to me at a very low school grade, and I always had like notebooks. I mean, I think the big moment for me was like maybe when I was 10, when I started really writing my own stories, and in notebooks, and then I started drawing with them. But I mean, so writing for me was always kind of like this necessity. It's just like I mean, I will always say if I stop writing, I basically die. I don't see the point of living if I'm not writing. So it's for me, my writing and my life are so tight together. It's just like this is what I do. But one thing I remember is that I remember when I wanted to become a writer, and that was when I was 18 and someone broke my heart.
And maybe something, because we have 4 or 5 minutes left, and something maybe you could share. For some people, writing can feel sometimes intimidating, right? And maybe Sabrina, could you share maybe some, I don't know, tips on how people could start writing, like how could they start doing it, or some maybe advice?
Oh, well, I mean, advice for writing, that's hard because people are people, nobody is different. Everybody is different. So it's, you need to, I mean, if you are asking yourself the question of should I write or not, this is up to you to say it. But usually what I really liked to do with my workshop is to make people write about their dreams. It's one of the few things that is one of the most easy things to do, is like, because you have already something to write about, because it can be very intimidating about writing, because you say it's like, it's not about, you don't write about nothing, you're always writing about something, but it's really hard to access in you. I mean, what you choose, what is really important to turn into writing, why would you need that? And usually dreams are these very elusive objects in you, they allow you to connect with the other side of yourself, or maybe with the other side of reality itself, we don't know. So there is this magical place where you talk to yourself without really being able to really listen to yourself. And so writing your dreams in a notebook, in a dream journal, for instance, and trying to write every day about your dream. So you have this dream, you can remember your dream, and you try to exercise remembering your dreams, and that's kind of like a workshop on the side that you need to do in order to make sure that your dreams can be accessible when you wake up. And even if it's 3 lines, doing that every day and accessing that secret part of you every day and talking to yourself and putting it out there, for yourself to look at afterward, it is super important. And it's a path to writing. It's a path to real writing and to access what is so important in yourself and why you have this urge and this need to write. So go there and grab your dreams and let them flow and allow yourself to create with them.
Thank you, Sabrina. It's actually a beautiful advice that you're giving, and I feel this is kind of a really nice note to finish our discussion, unless someone wants to add something, or I don't know, I feel like letting our dream flow and writing about it sounds like something we should start doing tomorrow. Okay, well, there's no question in the Q&A. Again, you can go check our website to see more on the project, because there's some videos. But yeah, thank you so much for all of you. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, Lison, Manon, and Paul for being here this afternoon and for sharing your work, your process, your thoughts. I really appreciate it, and I see you soon. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.